Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Road Ahead with AJ. Sorry for the long silence on YouTube. I was quite caught up with work commitments and the weather was terrible, so I just could not work on the bike or shoot any videos. So I finally found a supplier who can send me spares for the Continental GT 535, and the next few videos will be about most of the work on this bike particularly. So in this video, I'm going to change the chain sprocket set on the bike. I've already made a few videos of the minor things I've done on this bike. To see those videos, check out this playlist. The link should be coming up somewhere here. Have a look at that later. Now, before we start, I need some help from my viewers. If any of you have done this or have some kind of an expertise on this, I'll ask the question after the installation is done so that I don't waste too much time. Let's get started. Alright, let's see what's inside. This is, oh yes, this is the side stand for the GT. It's been completely busted, so this is good. We have it here. And what else? That should be the chain sprocket set. That's the small sprocket. And that's the big sprocket, the rear wheel sprocket. And the chain itself. Perfect. Great. Now that we've got all this, we shall finish fixing this on the weekend. Stay tuned for that. I will not make a video on fixing the side stand because it's fairly straightforward bolt off bolt on job, but for these two, stay tuned. And I also got the rear brake pads from Amazon from a brand called Nikavi, but they just came in this kind of a bubble wrap with a box. There's no Nikavi branding anywhere, but the quality looks fairly decent. I hope they fit. The Amazon page said it fits the GT 535. So let's fix this on the weekend. Step 1. Remove the chain link holding the chain in place. That's it. Chain's off. Now, with the chain lock off and the chain off, we just have to loosen the axle nut that's behind the silencer and remove the axle, and the rear wheel comes off. Then we'll have access to change the sprocket. So you need a 24 mm socket, and the other side of the axle needs to be held down by a screwdriver. There's a hole in there, so you can use that. The next bolt is a 30 mm, so next we have to get access to the small sprocket that's behind this. So first, remove the side stand, disconnect this pipe, disconnect this wire, and then we open all these bolts to get the cover off. Keep a tray below to catch all the dirty oil. You don't want to dirty your family's driveway because they'll kill you. So let's get started. There we go. It's off. Okay, with the kick off, you just have to move this out of the way. So use a plier. You can use it by hand also, don't need the pliers. And disconnect the alternator wire. There. Alternator or magneto, whatever you want to call it.
Now, since I don't open this bike very often, what I've done is to keep track of the bolts. I've made this little drawing, I don't know if it's visible. Basically a diagram of this cover so I know which bolt goes where. There it comes. And it's off. So now we'll get the sprocket off, we'll clean up this area. Always be careful while cleaning, don't get any dust into the engine, any kind of dirt. Okay, so first thing, you have to straighten this lock thing out. Nothing too much, just lightly. And there, the sprocket's off. Now normally mechanics have a kind of a spray bottle with a hole on top in the bottle, but I don't have that. I have this syringe, so I'm just gonna do it with that. Got most of the dirt, the major gunk off. We're not going to do a super clean job because we're not doing an engine rebuild, so this is good enough. Now one thing to be very careful, you need to wipe these edges off because we have to put a gasket back on and close this up. Now just to show you the difference, this is the new sprocket, this is the old sprocket. I don't know if you can make out the difference between the sizes of the teeth. This is what a good sprocket looks like. A sprocket that's worn out has the teeth absolutely sharpened out. So whenever you're installing something back, if it's not moving smoothly, you hear some grinding sound, it means there's dust in between. So there, now it's gone smoothly. There's dust in between and it's better you get that dust out because it's finally metal on metal that's grinding together. That's that. Always remember to put this is called a chain lock, I think, sprocket lock. And then we put this back. I think I'll just quickly give this also a little cleaning with diesel. Now while putting this back, if you have any doubt which direction it goes, usually the rule of thumb is to keep the anything that's got a writing on the outside. So there's an S here. Okay. So this is how I tighten it, by putting a spanner to block it from turning. Now once this is in, you need to bend this, I don't know what it's called, the chain lock, the sprocket lock. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do is run the chain through this, close this up, because before I put the back wheel on, I'll have to tilt the bike, so I don't want more oil spilling out. You can do it either of the two ways. Put the rear wheel on first and the chain, and then close this up. That's up to you. So let's get started. Another thing to keep in mind, whenever you're scraping off the old gasket, stuff tends to fall inside. So make sure you wipe it down properly. You don't want that stuff circulating in your oil. Now we take the screw diagram we had made and start putting everything back.
So at this point, I ran into some trouble. I was absolutely unable to loosen the bolts that held the sprocket onto the rear wheel hub. Now my mechanic had warned me that this could be very difficult, and I tried it. I didn't have a big enough lever, a pipe to really move it. I did not even have a kind of a table vise where I could clamp the hub and then remove it. So what I did was I towed the bike to the mechanic because it didn't have a chain on it, and he basically took the wheel off, removed the old sprocket, put the new sprocket, and he basically finished that part of the job. He also put the chain back. But I can still tell you the steps I was going to follow. So once you've got this new sprocket on, you get the wheel back into the swing arm and run the axle through. Don't tighten up the bolt fully. Once you've got the chain on it, you put the lock in and close the chain lock. Now here's where you need to set the correct chain slack before you tighten up the axle bolt. So there are the two chain slack adjusters, one on each side of the swing arm. You use a ruler and you measure the slack of the chain you need. I'm not going to get into the detail of that because there are plenty of videos on YouTube that will show you that. So once you've got the chain slack correct, you tighten up the chain slack adjusters on each side of the swing arm, and then you tighten the axle bolt, and that's it. That's the final step, and your bike is ready. So the question I want to ask, now all those of you who have watched my videos have seen how I've put a straight handlebar on this bike. So what if you've noticed, you've seen the two front suspensions actually sticking out, and what I'm thinking of doing is bringing those flush down with the mantle. So effectively what that will do is raise the front end a bit. The question I have is that will it drastically affect the handling of the bike? Is it safe to do? The things that I can think of is that yes, I know it will not change the suspension travel. It might change the fuel gauge readings a bit because the tank will be at an angle. It might increase a bit of the ground clearance of the bike, which would be good. But other than that, my main question is whether it's safe and it won't affect the handling of the bike in a negative way. So if any of you have any inputs on that, please leave it in the comments. I would be really grateful. And that's it. The bike's finally got a new chain sprocket set. Now factory chains come already lubed, so you do not need to slather on any more lube on it for the moment. But do keep in mind that because the chain is new, it will stretch. So you might have to check the slack maybe in the next 500 kilometers or so. Now this video, the work itself took a lot of effort, a lot of time, because I've not really done it before and I did it completely single-handedly. So if you have any comments on it, please leave it in the comment section below. And stay tuned because there's many more videos coming on repairing this bike. Until then,
Dream on, ride on, and helmet always on.